You're watching the 12th Man at Arrowhead Drive, hosted by Kevin Britton, right here on Stadium Drive Sports.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the 12th Man at Arrowhead Drive. I am your host, Kevin Britton, bringing you all your Chiefs content every Sunday and every Wednesday right here on Stadium Drive Sports. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and if you like the content, like the video, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. So today we're going to be talking 2022 NFL Draft Chiefs options in round 2. So we're going to be talking about positions that I think hold value at the end of the second round that carry a position of need for the Chiefs. So there's 3 main positions that we're going to talk about today. We're going to be talking about the linebacker position, the wide receiver position, and the defensive end position, and who the Chiefs could be targeting in the upcoming draft. So we will get started with that right after this.
Welcome, Royals fans, to a new informative, interactive show dedicated to the Kansas City Royals. Feel like you're part of the team on the field as I, Sean Barr, take you through the season. You'll feel right at home with great KC baseball, facts, and coverage. Get ready for the season to start. But whether you have the balls or not, you're safe right here on the Royal Way. We've got you equipped Mondays and Thursdays right here on Stadium Drive Sports.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and hop right into it here today. We're going to start by talking about the linebacker position. So the Chiefs currently have Willie Gay Jr. and Nick Bolton. We do need a third, as I've talked about. I would prefer that to be a linebacker that can excel in coverage, because that keeps us from having to have a high need of bringing in a number 4 corner that's going to get a lot of playing time. We can have our 3 main guys, and that's all we really have to focus on, just depth after that. So I have 4 linebackers that I think hold value for the Chiefs and what the Chiefs should be looking for that very well could be available at the end of the second round. The first one is Chad Mumma out of Wyoming. So Chad Mumma stands 6'3". He's 239 pounds. Now, Mumma's not overly physical. He's more of a shoot the gap type of guy when he's at the line of scrimmage, playing the run, coming on a blitz. He's the type, he likes to dip blocks, kind of a la Derek Johnson, to be honest with you. He is athletic, so that's why he is able to effectively utilize that athleticism to dip around those blocks and shoot those gaps. And he is a solid playmaker in coverage as well, so he fits that need of exactly what I think we should be looking for. The second linebacker is Brian Asamoah out of Oklahoma. So Asamoah is 6 foot, 226 pounds. He has good playing speed. He's an athletic guy, and he's rangy and lengthy, which works very well in coverage, and he is a good coverage linebacker as well. He can contest catches, and he excels in limiting yards after catch. So he may give up some catches, but he's not going to give up the yak afterwards. A very quick and efficient tackler in the passing game. So again, fits the mold of needing somebody that can excel in coverage. Next, we have Christian Harris out of Alabama. Harris is 6 foot tall, 226 pounds, so the exact same measurements as Brian Asamoah. Now, Christian Harris he's a fast and explosive player. Has that athleticism. He's good versus the run and also with blitzing, but he can man up in coverage as well. So if you need him to take on a running back out of the backfield, a tight end split out, he can man up and be able to get that accomplished. And then the last one is Quay Walker out of Georgia. So Quay Walker is a taller linebacker. He's 6'4", 241 pounds. He's got good speed and quickness. He's an explosive blitzer, which if Spags wants to keep mixing in his blitzes, Quay Walker is a good fit for that. He's also a sure tackler in open space, and again, solid in coverage. Obviously, you can see the theme and the trend amongst all four. They all have a good athleticism, and they all are able to excel in coverage, because I think that is something that Chiefs truly need in that third linebacker spot. So those are the linebackers that we could be looking for. Next, let's talk wide receiver. I have 3 wide receivers that I think could be available in the second round that the Chiefs could have their eye on. One of them is Jahan Dotson out of Penn State. So Dotson stands 5'11". He's 178 pounds. So he's a speedster type of receiver. Fits the mold of what we've always had. He's explosive and dynamic. He does a great job of creating separation and is also able to effectively get yards after the catch. So obviously we have Tyreek Hill. Hopefully we get that extension done. We have him for the future as our number 1. We have Juju for at least a year as our number 2. Contract's up after this year. We have Mecole Hardman as our number 3. Contract is up after this year. So bringing in a wide receiver that could fill like a number 4 spot for us this year, but be able to catapult to a number 2 spot is something that I think will be high on the Chiefs list. Brett Veach does like to draft for the future, so I think that the wide receiver spot is a spot we could look at even with the Juju signing. The next wide receiver is Christian Watson. So Christian Watson out of North Dakota State, tall guy, is 6'4" and 208 pounds. Great speed. Christian Watson is an absolute speedster. He's very athletic and explosive. He's a tall vertical threat that this team could add for more explosiveness as well, which matches very well this year with the likes of Juju and Travis Kelce kind of across the middle and running those underneath patterns. Being able to have another guy that can go stretch the field could be a huge benefit for this team this year. And then the last guy is Sky Moore. So Sky Moore out of Western Michigan, 5'10", 195 pounds. Again, very good speed, very good with the yards after the catch. I feel like any receiver we bring in has to be good with the yards after catch. That's a big part of what this Chiefs offense does. Now, Sky Moore is very shifty, and he's good at forcing missed tackles. I would compare him to somebody like Steve Smith. I think Steve Smith would be a fair comparison. I'm not big on comps, but just in case you guys have never seen Sky Moore, where he excels is the same type of areas that Steve Smith excelled in. So those are the 3 wide receivers that I think could be available day 2 for us. Now, I will have a future video where I talk about people round 3 that I think could be available. And obviously, depending on how the draft shakes out, some of those round 3 guys could potentially bump up to round 2 simply based on how the draft flows. If you have 15 wide receivers that come off the board in the first round and a half, for instance, might have to bump up some of your other receivers if there's guys that you do really like. But these are the guys I have graded out as round 2 talent that I think will be there in round 2 for us. And then the last position is, in my opinion, the most important position that the Chiefs need to draft, because we were not able to effectively accomplish filling the defensive end position during free agency. We restructured Frank Clark, but like I said, you don't improve by replacing expensive Frank Clark with less expensive Frank Clark. So several options that we have here. I have 6 different defensive ends that could be available at the end of round 2 for us, depending on how the draft falls. The first one is Kingsley Enagbare out of South Carolina. 6'4", 255 pounds. He's versatile. He can play standing up in the 3-4. He can play with the hand in the dirt in the 4-3. So the type of guy that can fit what we currently do, but if we do make a change in the future to a 3-4, he would be able to be utilized in that role as well. He can also drop into coverage, which kind of expected if you're capable of playing in a 3-4 outside, that you have some sort of coverage capability. So he would be able to do that for us. And And Agbari is a guy that plays with a very high motor. And that's something that I look at when it comes to the defensive end and is very important. We've seen some guys come through here that may not have been the greatest athletes, but their motor allowed them to be very successful. Tom Bahali was not extremely athletic. Jared Allen was not extremely athletic, but they both had high motors, and that allowed them to be successful for this team. Next is Arnold Ebiketie out of Penn State. So Ebiketie's 6'2", 250 pounds. He's well known at this point for his hand counters. He's a very strategic rusher, not overly athletic, but he uses his counters in a strategic way. He will do one move knowing that he's using that move to set up for another move that he'll use later to counter it. So he's a very mental processor of the game. So slightly above average, or kind of across the board. Nothing really pops out on what he does great, but there's nothing that he has as a real true weakness. And again, being just slightly above average, that's something that can bode well in the NFL, because the intellectual part of his game helps to kind of elevate the items that are slightly above average. Next up, Drake Jackson out of USC. Drake Jackson is 6'3", 254 pounds. Now, the thing about Jackson that I don't like is he's been inconsistent with his efforts. So not a high motor, go get it every play type of guy, which not something I'm necessarily looking for, but if the Chiefs think that they can coach him out of that, then I understand why they would be looking in that direction, because he does have good speed, he has good length, so he's got a good kind of combo of skill sets. The big downfall is just that kind of lack of effort on a down-by-down basis. Myjai Sanders out of Cincinnati. So Sanders was somebody that was higher on my board previously for the Chiefs specifically, but it's kind of dropped down due to, well, he dropped weight. From what I hear, he had an illness before the combine that made him drop some weight. But I think he was kind of purposely dropping some of that weight as well. It was just kind of intensified by the illness from what I'm hearing. He's wanting to be a 3-4 outside linebacker, which if we move to that in the future, perfect. But I do think he could put back on some weight. Right now he's 6'5", 228 pounds. I believe he was playing much closer to 250, if not 255 this past season in Cincinnati. He's got good length. He's got explosiveness off of the ball, good bend. He's very athletic, and he just, like I said, needs to put that weight back on if we're going to use him as a defensive end in a Steve Spagnuolo defense. But if he's willing to put that weight back on and play D end, I love it as a pick, because again, he obviously can drop some weight and move to a 3-4 outside linebacker if we go that route in the future. Next up, Sam Williams out of Mississippi at 6'4", 260 pounds. So big dude, but extremely fast. I believe he had the fastest 40 time out of all of the edge rushers at the combine. So his speed is kind of off the charts. It's just an uber athlete, and that's pretty much what he is. He's an athlete that plays linebacker, not necessarily a linebacker that is athletic. So still need to kind of develop his game and his knowledge of the linebacker position, but with the athletic traits that he has, he could be a very high-end edge rusher in the NFL. And then the last guy, Nick Benito out of Oklahoma. So Benito's 6'3", 248 pounds. He's able to drop off into coverage, which allows Spagnuolo to disguise some of the coverages and bring some blitzes from other spots, so we can get a little more creative on the defensive play calls. And Benito, basically, he wins with speed. He's more of a 3-4 outside linebacker, but again, he does weigh 248 pounds. So he's not far off from kind of fitting the mold of Steve Spagnuolo defensive end. But He's not a power rusher, which I don't think we have to have a power rusher. We've had power rushers and it hasn't worked out. Let's try something a little different. If you want to try something a little different, this list that we've talked about here today, including Benito, are good options of something that's a little different than what we've been doing that I think can really provide a spark to this defense. So those are some of the round 2 prospects that I think the Chiefs could be looking at. Now, you notice I don't have any cornerbacks on there. I do think cornerback is a position of need. I just don't feel like at the end of round 2, there's really any value at the corner spot. I think there's value at the end of the first round, and I think there's value in the third round at corner. I just don't feel the value is there in round 2. Rounds 1 and 3, yes, and we will talk about round 3 in our next video, and I will give you guys some of those cornerback options, because the Chiefs don't highly covet cornerback. So going for a corner in round 1 I think is unlikely. Round 2 I don't think there's value, but round 3 is where I feel like we start to kind of hit the pocket of what the Chiefs would be looking for in a cornerback. So we will talk about that then. But leave me a message, leave me a comment down below. Let me know any of these prospects we talked about today and which one you would most like to see, or which position you would most like to see, and I would greatly appreciate it. Again, subscribe to the channel, like the video if you like the content. I appreciate you guys tuning in. It's been a blast. Until next time.